Now that sends a flutter in your ear. When all this stuff was happening in the graft.
Oh, yeah. Similar was the thing that was in Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Well, what I was hearing, I'd feel a flutter in my ear. That's what it'd be. I wouldn't hear a sound, but I'd just hear this pulsing flutter in the ear. And I thought, no, that's something different. That's like what's that? You know, I'm trying to think of it. You know, it's like a bull roar. And I heard that a few times, and one of them, I think it was a means of communication with them, particularly either the interceptor or the gargoyle type one, the smaller ones there. And I'd heard that noise moving to the north, and it's over probably 100 metre distance. You know, I could hear the noise travelling. I couldn't see the object, but I could hear the noise travelling. It was that pulsing in the ear. And another time I heard, I could just hear it, and it must have been a long way away, and it just was that fluttering in the ear that I could hear, that super high frequency or whatever it is, or low frequency, I'm not sure. But I did ask the Aboriginal guy about it, and he said they used to use that for messaging years ago, like the Aboriginal. Yeah, they use it because that pulse that it sets up travels a great distance.
So it would almost be similar to like the human body, the biocellular registry of like a wake, sort of like light particles.
Yeah. That's the only time I've really sort of heard anything, I think. But I get out there and I think, okay, if you're around, show me, you know. And you know, like I did that one time at Glen Innes. I used to stand out the back door and wooden deck there and just sort of look over the house towards the black sky and to the east. And this little black object, probably one of those interceptor type ones, I saw it come in. It was not illuminated at all. Came down, low altitude, and it went around me because I saw it spinning around me, and I just, wow, what's this? And then I saw it fly off, leaving a streak in the sky. And it buzzed me like, you know, frightened the heck out of me. You know, but it was like one of those little things. And, you know, the trouble is if you they seem to remember you, you know, like, I don't know whether to communicate that information to others, I think they might even do that too. Yeah.
Oh, they're very aware of you.
Yeah, they're very aware of you, and then if you become aware of them, well, you know, you're going to have this stuff happen to you if you're going to get
their consciousness.
Yeah, the consciousness sort of does happen. Yeah. We might be because there's another. I haven't spoken about the actual alien spacecraft. There was what I call red light array craft. There was two of them. You might remember the time in '99. I think it was November '99 when. ABC News announced that the cattle along the Darling Downs were herding against the western boundary fence, breaking through from Chinchilla and going just herding off to miles, 30 odd miles away. They were freaking out, something's freaking out. So I put out a notice on the emailing list that watch out for cattle mutilations and low altitude aircraft. And I saw on 3 occasions these spacecraft that were treetop height, alien craft, probably 4 metres in diameter, the red light underneath flashing like that, and surrounded by red lights, and the craft itself was glowing a white glow, just a faint glow.
We're conditioned every time we see something that doesn't make sense to say the word alien. I'm not so aligned with that. I think a lot of things come from industrial military bases, underground bases. They've been built Second World War, and technology we couldn't even begin to understand.
Yeah, okay, I'll finish what I was going to say with it in regards to these 2 craft that I call alien spacecraft. They had RAAF jets hanging around at that same period of time. Lady in Coffs Harbour rang and said, there's orange lights over here. I rang the RAAF and told them there's orange lights over here. 2 minutes later, there's 2 jets circulating over Coffs Harbour. They were there like that. And then she said, then they went west. And I got those, the time, I checked the time, and I got them on video. And they were just cruising around, just around the outskirts of Greece. So this is the time when these 2 alien spacecraft were around. And I got a friend that got a connection with the RAAF, and I asked him, has the Air Force got recorded activity like any activity whatsoever in the Grafton area between these times and dates. And he checked and there was nothing recorded. The RAAF were there specifically to hunt away or get gun camera footage of these two alien spacecraft. And that was a time when the Gyra reservoir got flattened by a supposed meteorite, remember that? The water supply, the reeds were all flattened. That was the same period of time. And there was a groove, a trench dug underneath where this something flattened the reeds. Very mysterious. They divers from Sydney come up and look at it. And I actually drove from Grafton up to have a look at it. And yeah, that was something else. That wasn't a meteorite. And on the highway, Pacific Highway around the Galenas area, there was this guy thought a truck had parked on the middle of the road. Turned out to be a UFO, and he lost time. I didn't do the investigation, but he reported lost time, burns, all that sort of stuff. So they weren't ours in that case. Yeah, I don't know.
Actually, how many alien bases in Australia now?
How many what?
Alien bases in Australia now. Well, no, I know America's got it.
I'll tell you one thing that's interesting about Pine Gap. If you have a look, we just had a look there a few weeks ago. It's actually built in between two ironstone walls. You know, like those ironstone outcrops, which go down a long way.
Yeah.
You've got two great, strong, thick walls that nature's provided for you. You've only got to dig away like 2 metres or whatever, 3 metres down deep and put reinforced concrete there for your roof.
Yeah.
And then just excavate as much as you want out the bottom of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Nuclear weapon proof and everything, you know. Like you have a look on Google Earth and you'll see how it's constructed between these two limestone outcrops. And that goes for a long way, you know, like you can go a long way that way, you can go a long way. Plenty of room to expand in the future. We're running out of time, so I've just got a couple of important stories I'd like to leave with you about spirit orbs and earthbound energies and in strange things in the proximity of critically ill and dying humans. It affects us all and might spark an awareness in you to so take note in these things and learn a bit about them, because it's a real thing. The first one I wanted to share with you was I was taking my mother to a large northern New South Wales hospital. She was going to have a serious operation, so we walked up into the hospital to book in and go up on the lift on the first floor. We come to the doorway of the office, and as soon as I walked into the doorway, the whole room was full of orbs, and they all came into my chest like that. I could feel them, I could see them coming from all corners of the room. I estimated 50 or 60 or more, you know. And it set me back a bit. Wow, that was something, you know. So I turned to my mother and I said, that operation you're going to have is going to go well, be no problems, you know, and which it did. There's no problems. Anyway, just recently I asked a medium in Sydney when I was down there. I told her the story. And she said, what do you think it was? And I said, well, I sort of feel like I might have been a portal for these lost souls or earthbound souls, that people that had died in the hospital and were trapped in there and had no way, couldn't find their release. She said, that's exactly what happened. She said, you were for that doorway and they saw you as a portal. And that was their way of escaping into wherever they go. And they were released from Earth and found their way into the next dimension or whatever. And it's sort of, I'll never forget that, you know. And probably since the 70s, I've been interested in these orbs, and I've seen a few with my own eyes. And there was a lady, one night when I was writing my book, the same place I saw that gargoyle sort of alien reptile creatures above my swimming pool. An orb came along the other side near the boundary fence, and I watched it with my eyes, and then it disappeared. And I thought, God, that's an orb. So I went inside, got my digital camera, came out, took a photo, and it was in the photo. I could see on the back of the camera that orb was in the photo, where it went out, the size and the location, and like where the altitude above the ground. It was the same thing. I captured that orb. I couldn't see it with my eyes, but I got it on film. I saw it, then it went out. And I took 2 more photos at the same spot, which is what you do with the orbs if you can. If you take 3 photos of the one location, and no orb in the other 2 photos. So I think, and that next morning, the lady next door was 92-year-old. She passed away in the hospital that same morning, and I think that orb was her soul or spirit or whatever coming back to her location, her home, and saw me there and come over to say goodbye to me as well. I don't know, but that's quite a possibility.
You're very much a communicator for all of this, and ever since you were knee-high to a grasshopper, it's been coming through loud and clear.
Do you know what you're going to...
If that makes any sense.
Do you know what you're going to in the past lives?
What?
Do you know what you're watching in the past lives?
Pardon me?
Yeah.
Oh, probably I was killed in the Second World War in an aircraft, with the bombing of London. That's one of
Going back.
back.
But it's not important because you are what you are now.
Yeah.
And you're the end product of what you have been. And the thing is, it's almost like you've got a light on your head and they're just coming in and saying, there he is. And regardless of what age you started to actually see them, you will continue on, but I think there's communication going to happen at some stage in the near future.
Yeah, you could be right, if it hasn't already started, sort of thing. Another one I want to tell you about, which was very, very close to myself and my family. My father was in hospital and wasn't expected to last the night. And mother and I decided to set an all-night vigil there to see it through to the end. So I walked about 7:45 up, I'd say in the evening. I wanted to ring my daughters and tell them that their grandfather might not see them and find out, So I went outside and the mobile rang up, and as we were saying their goodbyes, she broke down a bit and I got sort of filled with grief for a moment. And then I looked up in the sky, was one of these probes, bright light, white light, coming low altitude, only about, I'd say, no more than a kilometre away. And it was very, very low, and I watched it and my grief just went immediately away from it because I knew what it was.
Yeah, they took it.
Not yet.
I mean, your grief.
Oh, yeah, they took it, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And
but it wasn't a part of you, it was foreign for them to see or feel that.
Yeah, well, it's just lifted. But this is, you listen to the rest of this.
I'm interrupting.
No, that's all right. I don't mind it saying, but this gets better and better, And so I lost track of it between the trees along the boundary fence, so I walked up the car park a bit more so I could see it, and it just sort of faded out into a small object, which was the object that was making the bright light before, and it was a UFO. I called it probe once, but it was a UFO anyway. Anyway, I went back into the hospital. I didn't say anything to my mother there, and we were just sitting in this dimly lit room right next to where the office was. And as soon as I got in there, I shook Dad on the shoulder and I said, "Dad," I said, "you got to go towards the white light. The people there, waiting for you." And I think he heard me. I'm pretty sure he did, because I gave him a fair jolt on the arm. I wanted him to hear me. His subconscious would have heard me anyway. Anyway, time went on a bit, and I had my legs crossed, so I was sitting on a chair, and the whole room was full of energy. It was sort of like a heat haze energy. And I took note of that. And I looked around, because I knew something was happening. And I looked around, and just behind Dad's head was a blue thing about that big and about that shape, like just behind his head there. And it was blue, and then it sort of faded out just long enough for me to see it was there, And then I never said anything to my mother. She's there facing the window, which was about, here to halfway up the wall away from us. And she said, "Oh, what was that?" I said, "What was what?" She said, "Oh, there was an aeroplane or a light or something just outside the window." Oh yeah. So I looked around, you know. And she said, "Oh, there it is again," you know. So I said, "Oh, what did it look like?" She said, "I don't know, it was something flying. It was an aeroplane or a light or something." So I walked up to the window and had a look. We're on the first floor. Waited till a car went past. No lights shone in the window, and there was a tree just outside the window, so there was nothing shining in from any distance. That had me puzzled a bit. So I'm curious now, and every now and then I'd look around, see if any one of these lights come back. Anyway, this particular time I looked around, and just against the window outside was a golden object. It was about that long, about that high. It was gold, like a gold ingot, not yellow, but gold. And it was sharp edges, sharp corners, total rectangle. And when I saw it, I looked at it, it was stationary, and then went, shot off to the right. Just long enough for me to see it and record it. And I didn't say anything to my mother at the time, and yeah, something was really happening here, you know. And a little while later, Dad passed away, and Mum said, "Jesus, look at his face." He says, "It's young again. He looks young again, you know." And I looked at it and said, "God, I agree with you, you know. Like, his face looked young again. He was glowing." That's right. She said, "The face is glowing. It looks young again." And I agreed with her, you know. It was like that. Anyway, when it all sort of finished and we were starting to walk past the nurses' quarter, Mum told him, we've got an arm in arm, you know, not a tear, you know, we just sort of, oh, geez. We thought that was a beautiful experience, you know. How lucky are we to have that beautiful experience at a time like that. Anyway, my parents were atheists, and they admitted to that, and my mother had never prayed in her life, you know. And every night after that, I stayed there for a while after that, and I heard her pray out loud and thanked. The last thing she said was, "And thank you to the angels." She called them angels. So I said to her, after we described what we both saw, she saw the same as me, but they were silver white rectangular things. One came in the first time, and then it flew out the second time she saw it. And when I told her what I saw, the golden one, she said, "What do you think they were?" I said, "Well, I think they must be angels, you know. I'd call them UFOs, but they could be angels, you know. What we call angels, they don't have to be persons with wings. The wings represent flight, you know, they could be angels. Such pure gold, beautiful thing." And she prayed every night from then on for the rest of her life. And thank you to the angels. So, there you go, that's some amazing stuff. That's real. That really happened. And if I've got time, I'll just tell you one more. I used to do a bit of freelance news for for Prime News on the coast. I was a freelance journo, you know. Anyway, it was 2:30 one morning. We got a phone call saying there was a fatal truck crash down the highway. Can you go and have a look at it? So I packed up the gear and went down. Had the camera on a tripod, but we couldn't film anything until they cleaned the scene up a bit. And while we were waiting, one of the fire rescue guys said, "Hey, Baz, there's one of the UFOs up there." And, oh, there was this orb about that round. Anyway, it was the surface of it I can describe only as had the luster of glazed pearl. And you can imagine what that looks like. That's what this thing looked like.
Pure.
Yeah, and anyway, we watched it. He said, "Oh," I said, "No, that's different. That's not a UFO. That's something different." You know? Anyway, this like a teardrop fell from underneath it, and it just disappeared. Just disappeared. And that was only probably 150 metres away, and probably 25 foot above the ground. Very, very low. Anyway, I sort of thought, no, that's probably the soul of the guy who's doing the truck, because it happened so quick. His soul was released and he didn't know what happened. So he went around, his soul went to the point of his last memory, and then he realised what had happened, then the teardrop fell and he just went. I think that's what might have happened, yeah. And another thing, well, we've got a minute or two. During the observations of UFOs during the 90s, so there's every now and then there'll be a bright flash in the sky. People talk about them these days. Astronomers were going to study them and all that sort of stuff. But I took notice And I'd set the camera up and just let it free roll on that spot to count how often it happened and all that. There was one flashing, and it was a due east, compass bearing due east. And then there was another one over here that was doing flashing, but not quite as often. And that was exactly 30 degrees around. So to me, that was, and then I heard other stories about navigation, 30 degrees. You can be in space and you can find out where your location is. So that's an interesting concept, you know. So I just envisaged this device that was a round globe with another interior globe, and each one had coordinates sort of etched on it, so that and a sensor in the middle of that, so that a flash of light from up here would be registered through both globes into that centre, and therefore get a coordinate if you was in space. That could be an instrument, and it would work in spacecraft without having to have a North Pole and South Pole, you know what I mean? And I got that concept from just watching that. Information, these days it's digital ones and zeros. The ultimate medium for transporting information would be photons. In a flash of light, you could have that much information embedded in the photons that it's just amazing, you know. So, and another situation was there was flashing lights in what was it? The Orion Belt, near the Orion Belt, and one bright light would flash, and another one over here would flash, and then this one here would flash, and this one moving closer to that one would flash. And that one would flash again, and this one moving closer would flash again. I said, oh, where are you? I'm over here, you know. I'm ready for you. I'm on my way, you know. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be saying that, but it's a communication thing. So the light flashing at a distance, no matter where, I don't have to be looking at it, flash over here, and this instrument pick it up. There's your coordinate, you know.
Your experiences, where do you think it's leading you on a personal level?
My experience.
Yeah.
I'll be able to come in and talk to you people and share it.
Yeah.
Why not? Couldn't be any
Sure.
better.
Yeah.
You know, like if you can get something out of it, or it inspires you to pick up a book and read something about it, or learn about it, or go out and have a look and see something for yourself, well, it's been worthwhile.
What about you? Where's it leading you in relation to yourself?
Wherever it is, I'm probably already there.
Okay.
You know, like I've seen a lot of things, I've experienced a lot of things, and I believe I need, you know, like you were talking there, but yeah, that's your theory, okay. You know, mine might be different to yours, but you know, everybody's entitled to their opinion, they have their own theories, and that's how things get developed and invented, you know. I don't debunk or poo-poo anybody's thinking, you know, like if you've got a mind that's going to think, put it to work, you know. And but I like to, I've had lots of dreams where I think, you know, people claim alien abduction. I think, well, I'm not saying it's not true, but I've had lots of dreams where I've been taken somewhere and shown things. To me, they're dreams, but I might wake up with scratches, and I might wake up with bruises, and I might wake up with all sorts of stuff. But it's a dream. And I travel somewhere and I learn. And I think my people have maybe bad abduction experiences. I don't claim to be an abductor, but I know I've been places, you know, and I remember these things, and I can draw them, and I've learned from them. So I think that's a teaching for me, and that's going back from 10-year-old. Like scoop marks. 3 nights in a row, I knew I was being taken into an egg-shaped black object by these strange creatures of a 10-year-old. Yes, I went in the 70s when I first got interested. I got interested in the group as seeing auras. One of the mates stood up against the wall, had a plain wall at the house there, and see if I can see your aura, you know. Anyway, oh, I can. It's blue energy around him, and I said, oh, there's a dark crescent-shaped thing in your aura above your left eye, and he says, oh, that's probably that scar there. I didn't know it was there, you know. ESP, we tried all that. Yeah, you just astral travel. I went to the Theosophical Society to learn about it, just see what they're on about. And I enjoyed the mind expansion side of their thoughts or their teachings. But I wasn't there for a great deal of time. But I bought a book on astral travel, or how to astral travel. So I was about 10:30 getting late, so I put it down. I walked into the bedroom and a physical ascension. My vision was like ceiling height, but my body was still the same. I wasn't out of my body. It's like a ground of 9 foot tall. I looked around, this is pretty good, you know. Got a bed all the way down there, and I touched it. Wow, that's all the way down, you know. I walked over there, and the window's just there, and the light's just there. Oh, this is pretty amazing. So I thought, I'll just go up the door and I'll measure, put my hand up to measure how high I am, and I can. As soon as I put my hand up, the feeling of shrinking back down to my normal size. Yeah, well, one of my astral travels, I suppose it was. I saw trams. It was in the Moscow Square. I saw the buildings, which were unique, of course, and I saw the trams that were on wheels, tyres, not like trucks. Electric electric buses. I thought, geez, they were on wheels, not tracks. That's a bit strange, you know. Anyway, I just remembered, and that was it, you know. And then it wasn't until sometime, quite a while later, I saw a documentary on Moscow, and here's these trams, the buses, the electric buses with the wheels. And I've been there. I knew that was happening. First time I've seen it since then. But